There is a wind that comes off Lake Michigan in the deep winter that feels like it has traveled 1,000 miles just to find you. In Chicago, they call it the Hawk. It cuts through the heavy wool coats of the businessmen on Michigan Avenue. It whistles through the steel girders of the L train tracks, and it settles, heavy and cold, into the brick bungalows of the neighborhoods on the west side. Tonight we are going to drift back in time, carried by that wind. We're going to go back to a Chicago that looks a little different than the one today. The colors are muted, sepia, gray, and the deep dark blue of a winter twilight. We are going to walk the streets of the Grand Avenue neighborhood, where the streetlights hum with a low electric buzz, and the shadows stretch long across the pavement. This is the story of Nicholas Calabrese. But before we get to the trials, before the courtrooms and the headlines that would one day shake the foundations of the American Mafia, we must first understand the world that made him. We must understand the silence. For a man like Nick, silence wasn't just the absence of noise. It was a texture. It was a rule. In the world of the Chicago outfit, silence was the mortar that held the bricks of the organization together. It was heavy, like a wool blanket pulled over the city. Imagine you are sitting in a car, a 1970s Lincoln Continental, with wide leather seats that creak softly when you shift your weight. The engine is idling, a low rhythmic thrum that vibrates gently through the floorboards. The heater is on, blowing a steady stream of warm air that smells faintly of gasoline and old upholstery. Outside, the city of Chicago is asleep, or pretending to be. Nick sits in the passenger seat. He's a younger man here in the early days. He looks out the window at the passing rows of houses. They are sturdy, brick two flats, identical in their stoicism. Each one holds a family, a history, a set of secrets. In this neighborhood, everyone knows everyone, yet nobody asks the wrong questions. You wave to your neighbor, you shovel their walk when the snow piles up, and you never ask where they were the night before. The car moves slowly down Grand Avenue. The tires hiss on the damp asphalt. It has been raining, a cold, steady drizzle that turns the streets into black mirrors reflecting the neon signs of the taverns and the pizzerias. Open, closed, Italian beef. The signs flicker in the rearview mirror, disappearing into the mist. Nick isn't the boss. That's the first thing you have to understand to feel the rhythm of this story. He isn't the man shouting orders. He is the man who listens. He is the man in the shadow of someone else. And that shadow belongs to his brother, Frank Calabrese. Even the name carries a weight in the car. Frank is the driver. He is the force of nature. In the quiet ecosystem of the car, Frank is the storm, and Nick is the leaf caught in the draft. But right now, there is no shouting, just the driving, the routine. The outfit, as they called it, wasn't chaos. It was a machine. It operated with the dull, grinding inevitability of a factory. And Nick was a worker on the assembly line. His job was simple, or so it seemed. It was about the street tax. It was about the juice. Let your mind drift to the back room of a small auto body shop on the west side. This is where the business is done. The air here is thick and still. It smells of motor oil, stale coffee, and cigarette smoke. The perfume of the underworld. There's a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling, casting a yellow cone of light onto a metal desk. Nick stands in the corner. He watches. He's learning the language of the streets. It is a language of gestures, a nod, a look, a hand placed firmly on a shoulder. No threats need to be screamed. The threat is in the atmosphere. It hangs in the room like the smoke. He watches his brother, Frank. Frank is charming when he wants to be. He smiles, his teeth white in the dim light. He talks about family, about respect, about how hard it is to make a living these days. He offers a loan to a man who has nowhere else to go. The man takes the money. He shakes Frank's hand. He nods at Nick. Nick nods back. A simple movement. But with that nod, a contract is signed, not on paper, but in the ether of the city. The man now belongs to the outfit. And in a way, Nick realizes as he stands in the shadows, he belongs to it too. The life of a soldier in the mob is often painted in bright red colors by Hollywood, full of glamour and champagne. But the reality that settles over Nick like the winter chill, is that it is a life of blue-collar grind. It is long hours, it is boredom, it is waiting. Waiting in cars, waiting in diners, waiting for the phone to ring. Let's go back to the car. The Lincoln turns a corner, the suspension rocking gently like a boat on a calm sea. It's late now, past 2 in the morning. The city is truly quiet. The only sound is the rhythmic thwack-thwack of the windshield wipers clearing the mist. Nick looks at his hands. They are working hands. He was a metal worker, a man who knew how to build things, how to fix things. He liked the clarity of metal. You heat it, you bend it, it cools, it stays. It is honest. The world he is entering now is not honest. It is fluid. It shifts. Rules change depending on who is in the room. He thinks about his childhood, the chaotic energy of the Calabrese household, the poverty, the way they scraped by. He remembers the feeling of wanting to be someone, or perhaps just wanting to be safe. In the neighborhood, safety came from power, and power came from the outfit. If you were with them, the wolves couldn't get you. You were the wolves. But tonight, in the warmth of the car, Nick doesn't feel like a wolf. He feels tired, a deep, bone-weary tiredness that sleep won't fix. He looks over at Frank. Frank is humming along to a song on the radio, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Frank seems energized by the night, fed by it. Nick just wants the dawn to come. The car passes under a viaduct. The darkness deepens for a moment, total and absolute, before they emerge back under the streetlights. This era, the 1970s, was a time when the outfit was shifting. The old dons, the men who had known Al Capone, were aging out or dying off. A new generation was rising, men who were hungrier, perhaps a little more reckless. The street crews were the engines of this power, and the Grand Avenue crew was one of the toughest. To understand Nick's journey, you have to visualize the geography of the crew. It wasn't a boardroom. It was a collection of social clubs, storefronts with painted-over windows. Inside, time seemed to stop. Imagine walking into one of those clubs now. The door opens with a jingle of bells, jarring in the silence. The warmth hits you first. It's a dry radiator heat. There are card tables set up, covered in green felt. Old men in cardigans are playing briscola, slapping the cards down with a rhythm that sounds like a heartbeat. Slap, slap, slap. They speak in a mix of English and Italian dialects, a private code. They drink espresso from tiny white cups. When Nick walks in, the heads turn. Just slightly, an acknowledgement. Nicky, someone whispers. Hey, Nicky. He is accepted here. He is part of the fabric. It feels like a warm embrace, this belonging. It feels like a family. But deep down, beneath the wool coat and the calm expression, there's a seed of anxiety. Because this family demands everything. It demands your soul. Nick sits at a table. Someone pours him a coffee. He wraps his hands around the warm ceramic cup. He watches the steam rise, twisting and curling into the air. He thinks about the jobs they have done, the collections, the intimidation, the slow creeping escalation of violence. It started small. A broken window, a slashed tire, a warning delivered in a dark alley. But the slope is slippery and gravity is strong. Nick can feel the pull. He can feel himself sliding down, away from the light of the regular world, the world of 9-to-5 jobs and Sunday dinners, and into the twilight world of the outfit. He takes a sip of the coffee. It is bitter and strong. The story of Nicholas Calabrese is often told through the lens of his betrayal years later. But tonight, we linger on his loyalty. Because before you can betray, you must love. Or, if not love, you must be bound. Nick was bound to Frank. It was a bond forged in blood and reinforced by fear. Frank was the older brother, the protector, the bully, the king. Nick was the younger brother, the shadow. In the quiet of the social club, Nick watches the smoke from a cigar drift up toward the tin ceiling tiles. He wonders if there is a way out, but the thought is fleeting, like a bird flying past a window. Where would he go? This is his world. Grand Avenue is his universe. The boundaries of his life are marked by the streets he knows, the people he owes, and the people who owe him. Outside, the wind picks up. The hawk screams down the alleyway, rattling the back door of the club. The men at the card table pause, just for a second, listening to the sound. Then, the game continues. Slap, slap, slap. The rhythm of the mob is hypnotic. It lulls you into thinking it will last forever, that the money will always flow, that the police will always be paid off, that the secrets will always stay buried. Nick closes his eyes for a moment in the warm, smoky room. He listens to the murmur of voices. He feels safe here, in the belly of the beast. But he doesn't know yet that the beast is hungry. He doesn't know that the secrets they are burying today, in the marshes and the foundations of buildings, in the deep recesses of their own memories, will one day rise up. The 1970s turn into the 1980s. The cars get boxier, the hair gets bigger, but the game stays the same. And Nick stays in the car, always in the passenger seat, always watching the road ahead while Frank drives. As we drift deeper into this sleep story, imagine the timeline of Nick's life stretching out like a long, dark highway. We are at the on-ramp now. The engine is revving. The destination is unknown, or perhaps it is inevitable. The city of Chicago breathes around him, a massive, sprawling giant of stone and steel. It doesn't care about Nicholas Calabrese. It doesn't care about the outfit. It just exists, enduring the winter, enduring the corruption, enduring the passage of time. Feel the weight of that endurance, the stability of the ground beneath the pavement, the deep roots of the oak trees in the parks, the relentless waves of the lake crashing against the concrete shore. Crash, hush, crash, hush. It is a hypnotic sound, a lullaby for a city of sinners and saints. Nick finishes his coffee. He stands up. It's time to go. Frank is waiting. There's another stop to make, another envelope to collect, another secret to keep. He buttons his coat. He adjusts his scarf against the coming cold. He walks to the door, the bell jingling again as he exits the warmth of the club and steps back into the night. The cold hits him instantly, sharp and clarifying. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the icy air. He walks to the car, the Lincoln waiting at the curb with its exhaust plumbing white clouds into the darkness. He opens the door. He slides in. The lock clicks down. The car pulls away from the curb, merging into the darkness of Grand Avenue. The taillights glow red, two burning eyes fading into the distance. We watch them go, safe from our vantage point in the present, drifting on the edge of sleep. We watch the car disappear, carrying Nicholas Calabrese deeper into the history that will define him. The wind continues to blow. The city continues to sleep. And the story has only just begun. We are back in the car. It is a few years later now, perhaps the late 1970s. The seasons have changed, shifting from the biting winter of our last chapter into a heavy, humid Chicago summer. The air is thick, hanging over the city like a wet wool blanket. It holds the heat of the day, long after the sun has gone down, radiating off the brick buildings and the asphalt streets. Close your eyes and listen to the sounds of a summer night in the city. The distant hum of traffic on the Kennedy Expressway, a sound like a rushing river that never stops. The chirping of crickets in the small patches of grass between the driveways. The low murmur of a television playing through an open window, the blue light flickering against the curtains. In this chapter, we explore the routine. We explore the day-to-day grind of the juice business, the loan sharking operation that was the heartbeat of the Calabrese crew. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't champagne and tuxedos. It was a business of notebooks, street corners, and silence. Nick is still in the passenger seat, but he is older now. His face has hardened slightly, the lines around his eyes a little deeper. He has learned the rhythm of the life. He knows that patience is not just a virtue, it is a survival skill. The car is parked on a side street near Western Avenue. The engine is off, but the windows are rolled down to catch the breeze. Nick leans his arm on the doorframe, watching the street. He is the silent apprentice, the watcher. Frank, his brother, is inside a small tavern across the street. The neon sign above the door buzzes with an angry electric sound. Old-style beer, flickering red and blue. Nick watches the door. He doesn't need to go in. His job right now is simply to be present, to be the anchor. In the world of the outfit, presence is everything. You don't always need to speak. You just need to be seen. A car parked on the corner for an hour, a man standing quietly by a lamppost. These are messages. They say, "We are here. We remember. You should remember too." Inside the car, the radio plays softly. A slow, soulful ballad from the AM dial. Nick lights a cigarette. The flame of the lighter flares up, illuminating his face for a brief second. The sharp nose, the dark, watchful eyes, before fading back into the gloom. He exhales a plume of smoke that drifts out the window and dissolves into the humid night air. He thinks about the ledger, the book. It was the Bible of their operation. Names, dates, numbers. It was a simple thing, really, just paper and ink. But that book held the fate of dozens of men. The gambler who thought his luck would turn. The business owner trying to make payroll. The father who just needed a little extra for Christmas. They all came to Frank, and by extension, they came to Nick. Nick wasn't the one who crunched the numbers. He was the one who ensured the equation balanced. He was learning the delicate art of pressure. You didn't break a man immediately. That was messy. That was bad for business. No, you applied pressure like a vice, slowly, turn by turn. A reminder here, a visit there, a look that lingered just a second too long. As Nick waits, he watches a cat slink along the top of a fence, a shadow moving within shadows. It pauses, looks at him with glowing green eyes, and then vanishes. We are all just ghosts in this city, Nick thinks, moving through the dark, trying not to be seen by the wrong people. The door of the tavern opens. A burst of laughter and music spills out onto the quiet street, abrupt and jarring. Frank steps out. He is laughing, clapping a man on the shoulder. The man looks smaller, shrunken. He is nodding vigorously, a nervous, jerky motion. Frank says something, points a finger, not aggressively but firmly, and the man nods again. Frank crosses the street. He moves with a swagger, a physical confidence that takes up space. He gets into the car, bringing the smell of stale beer and cigar smoke with him. "Let's go," Frank says. His voice is gravel and energy. Next stop. Nick turns the key. The engine roars to life, a deep, throaty rumble that vibrates through the seats. He puts the car in gear, and they pull away from the curb, sliding back into the stream of the city. Driving at night in Chicago is a hypnotic experience. The streetlights pass overhead in a rhythmic cadence. Light, dark, light, dark. It creates a strobe effect, a visual lullaby. The tires hum on the pavement. The suspension absorbs the bumps and cracks of the aging roads. They head towards the Patch, the old neighborhood around Grand and Ogden. This is the heartland, the sanctuary. Here, the streets are narrower, lined with old Italian delis and social clubs with painted-over windows. The car stops in front of a nondescript storefront. There's no sign, just a number painted in gold leaf on the glass door. This is the office, or one of them. Nick follows Frank inside. The transition is instant. The humid heat of the Chicago night is replaced by the cool, conditioned air of the club. It smells of espresso, lemon polish, and the faint, sweet scent of anisette. The room is dimly lit, cozy. There are wood-paneled walls covered in framed photos of the old days, Black and white pictures of men in fedoras, picnics in the park, heavy cars with running boards. History looks down from the walls, watching the new generation. Nick takes a seat at a small round table in the corner. He prefers the corners. It allows him to see the whole room, to watch the door. A habit he is forming that he will never break. An old man, the caretaker of the club, brings him a small glass of water and an espresso. The cup is tiny, the liquid dark and thick as oil. Nick sips it. The bitterness wakes up his senses, sharp against the fatigue of the late hour. Around him, the business of the crew continues. It is a low murmur of voices, men leaning in close, speaking in hushed tones. There is no shouting here. In the inner sanctum, voices are kept low. Secrets are fragile things. They shatter if you speak them too loudly. Nick watches his brother holding court at the main table. Frank is animated, using his hands to tell a story. The other men laugh at the right moments, lean in when he lowers his voice. Frank feeds on this attention. He needs it like oxygen. But Nick is different. He is the silent apprentice. He is learning that power doesn't always need to be broadcast. Sometimes, power is what you don't say. It is what you hold back. He observes the dynamics of the room. He sees who looks at whom before speaking. He sees who sits closest to the boss. He sees the hierarchy, invisible lines of respect and fear connecting every man in the room. It is a complex web, and Nick is learning to navigate it without touching the strands. Time seems to slow down in the club. Midnight comes and goes. The city outside sleeps, but inside, the clock is irrelevant. They are insulated from the world. There are no police here, no wives, no bills, just the life. As the hours stretch on, Nick's mind drifts. He thinks about the duality of his existence. By day, he tries to maintain a veneer of normalcy, a family man, a worker. But by night, he descends into this underworld. It is becoming harder to keep the two worlds separate. The shadows of the night are starting to stretch into the day. He remembers a moment from earlier that week, a simple family dinner. Pasta, red sauce, the noise of children. He looked at his hands as he broke the bread. Hands that had held money counted out by trembling fingers. Hands that had steered the car away from crime scenes. He wondered if the stain of the money washed off, or if it seeped into the skin, into the blood. He looks at his hands now, resting on the white tablecloth of the social club. They look the same, steady, capable. "Nicky," Frank calls out. Nick looks up. Frank beckons him over. The apprentice is summoned. Nick stands up slowly. The chair scrapes softly against the floor. He walks to the main table. The men look at him, some with respect because of his blood, some with suspicion because he is so quiet. You can never tell what a quiet man is thinking. "Tell them," Frank says, grinning. "Tell them about the guy on Taylor Street." Nick pauses. He knows the story Frank wants. It's a story about a collection that went smooth, where Nick had simply stood in the doorway, blocking the light, until the man paid up. It wasn't a violent story, but it was a story about intimidation. "He paid," Nick says simply. His voice is soft, flat. He knew what time it was. The men chuckle. They like that. He knew what time it was. It's a good line. It implies control. Frank beams. He slaps the table. Exactly. He knew. Nick goes back to his corner. He doesn't want the applause. He just wants the night to end. He wants to go home, to the quiet of his own bed, to the oblivion of sleep. But the night is long in the outfit. Finally, around 3 a.m., the meeting breaks up. The men file out, shaking hands, kissing cheeks. Buona notte. Take it easy. See you around. Nick and Frank step back out onto the street. The air has cooled slightly, a fresh breeze coming off the lake, cutting through the humidity. The street is empty now, truly deserted. The storefronts are dark eyes staring back at them. They get back into the Lincoln. The door closes with a heavy, solid thud, sealing them in. "Good night," Frank says, leaning back, closing his eyes. "We did good." Nick starts the engine. "Yeah," he says softly. "We did good." He drives. The car glides through the empty intersections. Red light, green light, yellow light. It doesn't matter. There's no one to stop for. They own the night. As he drives, Nick feels a strange sense of peace. The work is done. The ledger is closed for now. The city is theirs. He turns onto the expressway, heading home. The road stretches out before him, a river of gray concrete illuminated by the orange glow of the sodium lamps. He lets the rhythm of the road take over, the white lines dashing past, zip, zip, zip. He is the silent apprentice, driving the car through the sleeping city. He is a ghost in a machine, moving through a world of shadows. And for now, that is enough. The future, the trials, the betrayals, the wires, is still far away, hidden beyond the horizon of the night. Tonight, there is only the drive, the hum of the engine, and the silence. The city of Chicago changes when you cross the river. The energy shifts. The towering glass and steel of the downtown loop, which reaches for the sky like jeweled fingers, gives way to something lower, flatter, and harder. We are moving west now, into the industrial corridors that line the arteries of the city. It is autumn now. The heavy, humid heat of summer has broken, replaced by a crisp, biting chill that smells of dead leaves and distant wood smoke. The wind has changed direction, no longer coming off the vast expanse of the lake, but blowing in from the plains, carrying the scent of dust and drying earth. Tonight, the fog has rolled in. It is a thick gray blanket that settles low over the streets, dampening the sounds of the city. The streetlights are reduced to glowing halos, suspended in the mist like captured moons. We find ourselves in the industrial district near the Chicago River. This is a landscape of brick and iron. Huge windowless warehouses loom out of the fog, silent monoliths of commerce. The ground here is uneven, paved with cobblestones that have been worn smooth by a century of truck tires. Nick Calabrese is walking. Listen to the sound of his footsteps. Click, clack, click, clack. Hard leather soles on wet stone. It is a lonely sound, a rhythmic percussion that echoes off the brick walls. He walks with his hands deep in the pockets of his trench coat, the collar turned up against the damp air. He is alone for the moment. Frank is nearby, parked in the Lincoln around the corner, keeping the engine warm. But some things have to be done on foot. Some messages have to be delivered face to face in the spaces between the buildings where the shadows are deepest. Nick stops under a flickering street lamp. He checks his watch. The face of the watch glows faintly, green radium numerals in the dark. It is 11 p.m. The shift change at the factory down the block happened an hour ago. The streets are empty. He looks at his hands, hidden in his pockets. They feel heavy. In the metaphorical sense, and perhaps in the literal sense too. He's carrying the weight of the hammer, not necessarily a physical tool, though sometimes that was true, but the weight of enforcement. He is the presence that ensures the gears of the outfit keep turning. The business of the outfit, as Nick was learning, wasn't just about money. It was about gravity. It was about creating a force so strong that people fell into orbit around it without even trying. You lend money, you offer protection, you fix a problem, and suddenly you are the sun in their solar system, and like the sun, you can burn. He approaches a metal door set into the side of a corrugated steel building. There is no sign, just a rusted buzzer. Nick doesn't press it. He knocks 3 times. Solid, deliberate, thud, thud, thud. The sound is swallowed by the fog. He waits. Waiting is 90% of the job. He listens to the distant sound of a train shunting on the tracks miles away. The clash of metal couplings, clank boom, traveling through the heavy air. It sounds mournful, like a beast calling out in the night. The door opens a crack. A sliver of yellow light cuts across the wet pavement, illuminating the drifting mist. A face appears, tired eyes, a nervous twitch. "Nick," the voice says. It is a whisper, relieved and terrified at the same time. "Tony," Nick replies. His voice is calm, level. "Open up." The door opens wider. Nick steps inside. The atmosphere changes instantly. The cold damp of the river district is replaced by the smell of grease, sawdust, and stale coffee. It is a machine shop. Lathes and drill presses stand silent in the gloom, looking like skeletal robotic creatures. They walk to a small office in the back. The linoleum floor is cracked and peeling. A calendar on the wall is 2 months out of date. This is the habitat of a man who is drowning. Nick sits down on a metal folding chair. He doesn't take off his coat. He brings the cold in with him. It radiates off him, a reminder of the world outside. "Frank isn't happy, Tony," Nick says. He says it softly. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. The name Frank is enough to lower the temperature in the room by 10 degrees. Tony rubs his face with grease-stained hands. "I know, Nick. I know. The shipment, it got delayed. The trucks." Nick raises a hand, a gentle stop sign. "I don't need the story, Tony. Stories don't pay the juice. Stories don't fill the envelope." He looks around the office. He sees a photo of a family on the desk, a wife, 2 kids with missing teeth, smiling in the sun. He looks at it for a long moment. He feels a pang of something, empathy maybe, or just recognition. He has a family too. He knows the pressure of needing to provide, but he pushes the feeling down. He packs it away into a small, tight box in the back of his mind. In this room, he isn't a father or a husband. He is a mechanic of the mob, and the machine needs to be oiled. "Friday," Nick says. "Friday at noon. Bring it to the club." "Nick, I don't know if—" Nick leans forward, the chair creaks. He looks Tony in the eye. His eyes are dark, unblinking pools. "Friday, noon. Don't make Frank come down here, Tony. You know what happens when Frank comes down." Tony swallows. He nods. "Friday, noon." Nick stands up. The meeting is over. It took 3 minutes. No guns were drawn. No voices were raised. But the weight of the hammer was felt. The threat hangs in the air, heavier than the smell of the grease. Nick walks back out into the night. The door closes behind him, sealing the yellow light back inside. He is back in the gray world of the fog. He walks back to the car. The Lincoln is a dark shape in the mist, the exhaust idling in white puffs. He gets in. The warmth washes over him. Frank is peeling an orange. The sharp citrus scent fills the car, cutting through the smell of the river. "He good?" Frank asks, popping a slice of orange into his mouth. "He's good," Nick says. "Friday." "Good," Frank grunts. "Let's go." They drive. The car moves through the industrial wasteland, passing under the viaducts of the train lines. The shadows of the girders slash across the hood of the car like prison bars. Nick looks out the window at the Chicago River. It is black and oily, moving slowly towards the Mississippi. It reflects the city lights in distorted, shimmering streaks. The river is the keeper of secrets. How many guns are at the bottom of that water? How many memories? He thinks about the concept of loyalty. It is the currency of their world. But loyalty is a heavy burden. It means doing things you don't want to do. It means standing by while lines are crossed. It means becoming something you never intended to be. Frank turns on the radio. It's a talk show. Low voices debating sports, the Chicago Bears, the upcoming season. It's normal. It's banal. It grounds them in the reality of the city. They're just 2 guys driving through the night, just 2 brothers. But they aren't. And Nick knows it. They head towards a different part of town now, the patch again, the sanctuary. As they drive, Nick finds himself drifting into a half-sleep state. The motion of the car is soothing, the tires humming, the heater blowing. He watches the windshield wipers clear the condensation. Swipe, swipe, swipe. He thinks about the duality of his hands again. Earlier today, he fixed a leak in his kitchen sink. He used a wrench. He tightened a bolt. It was honest work. It felt good to fix something, to stop a leak. Now, tonight, he is the wrench in Frank's hand. He's being used to tighten the screws on people like Tony. He isn't fixing anything. He's breaking things, slowly, microscopically. The car stops at a red light. The intersection is empty. To their left is an old church, its stone spire disappearing into the fog. To their right is a liquor store with bars on the windows. Saint and sinner, the eternal duality of Chicago. Frank breaks the silence. "You tired?" "A little," Nick admits. "We got a big week coming up," Frank says, his voice taking on that edge of excitement that Nick has learned to dread. "Big opportunities. We're expanding the book, moving into the suburbs." The suburbs. Nick imagines the quiet, tree-lined streets, the manicured lawns, the safety. He wonders if the rot will spread there too, if they will bring the infection with them. Of course they will. Where there is money, there is the outfit. They arrive at the social club. It is late, past 2 a.m., but the lights are on. There's always a card game. There's always coffee. They go inside, but Nick doesn't sit down this time. He stands by the bar, leaning against the polished wood. He watches the old men play. They move with the slow, deliberate grace of tortoises. They have survived. That is their victory. They are still here. Nick wonders if he will survive, if he will live to be an old man playing cards in a smoky room, or if his story ends differently. He pours himself a glass of water. He drinks it down. It is cold and clean. He catches his reflection in the mirror behind the bar. He looks tired. The shadows under his eyes are dark bruises. He looks like a man who is carrying something heavy. Frank is already at a table, laughing, holding court. He is tireless. He is a shark that must keep moving to breathe. Nick is the pilot fish, swimming in the slipstream, trying not to get eaten. "I'm gonna head out," Nick says to Frank. Frank looks up surprised. "Early night?" "Yeah, gotta be up early with the kids." Frank nods. "All right, go home, kiss the kids for me." "I will." Nick walks out. The transition to the cold air feels like waking up. He walks to his own car, parked down the block. A modest sedan, not a flashy mob car, a family car. He gets in. He sits for a moment in the silence before turning the key. He takes a deep breath. In. Out. He tries to exhale the night. He tries to push the image of Tony's scared face out of his mind. He tries to forget the smell of the grease and the sound of the hammer. He starts the engine. He drives home. The drive to the suburbs is a decompression chamber. The city falls away behind him. The tall buildings recede. The streetlights become further apart. The houses get smaller, then larger, with driveways and yards. He pulls into his driveway. The house is dark. His family is asleep. He enters quietly, unlocking the door with the stealth of a thief. But he is not stealing. He is returning. He hangs his coat in the closet. He takes off his shoes. He walks through the living room. The carpet is soft under his feet. The house smells of laundry detergent and sleep. It is the smell of innocence. He goes to the kitchen. He washes his hands. He scrubs them with soap and hot water. He scrubs them for a long time. He watches the suds swirl down the drain. He goes upstairs. He checks on his children. They are sleeping soundly, tangled in blankets. He stands in the doorway, watching the rise and fall of their chests. This is why he does it. This is the justification, to keep this safe, to build a wall of money and influence around this fragile piece. But the wall is built of bricks made from other people's fear. And Nick knows that walls can crumble. He goes to his bedroom. He undresses in the dark. He slides into bed beside his wife. She stirs, murmurs something, and settles back into sleep. He lies on his back, staring at the ceiling. Outside, the wind picks up again. It rustles the leaves of the oak tree in the front yard. It sounds like whispering. Hush, hush, hush. Nick closes his eyes. He lets the darkness take him. He imagines he is floating on the river, drifting towards the great wide lake. The weight of the hammer is gone for a few hours. The ledger is closed. But tomorrow, the sun will rise, the phone will ring, and the machine will start again. Drift now. Let the image of the dark, quiet house hold you. The safety of the lock on the door, the warmth of the blankets, the rhythmic breathing of the house. The city is far away. The past is a memory. The future is a dream. There is only now. Only sleep. The seasons in Chicago turn like the pages of a heavy book. We have seen the rain of spring and the humidity of summer. Now, the wheel turns again, bringing us to the deep, silent freeze of January. This is a time when the city feels locked in place, frozen under a sky the color of iron. Tonight, the snow is falling. It is not a blizzard, but a gentle, steady sifting of white flakes that float down through the cones of the streetlights. They settle on the rooftops, on the branches of the bare trees, and on the hoods of the parked cars, muffling the world. The city is holding its breath. In this chapter, we approach a threshold, a door that, once opened, can never be closed again. Until now, Nick has been the watcher, the apprentice, the man in the shadow. But shadows, by their nature, are cast by something solid. And in the outfit, solidity comes from action. We find Nick in a different car tonight, not the spacious Lincoln, but a smaller stolen Ford, a work car. It smells of cold vinyl and someone else's cigarettes. The heater is struggling against the temperature outside, blowing a tepid breath against the frosted glass. Nick sits behind the wheel this time. His hands are gloved in black leather. They grip the steering wheel tight, not out of fear, but out of a need for control. The leather creaks softly as he adjusts his grip. Creak, hush, creak, hush. Beside him sits Frank. But tonight, Frank is not the jovial, laughing brother holding court at the social club. Tonight, Frank is silent. He is focused. He's checking a small, dark object in his lap. The click of metal on metal, a slide racking back, a magazine clicking into place, is a sharp, distinct sound in the quiet car. They are parked in an alleyway on the northwest side. The brick walls on either side rise up like canyon walls, blocking out the wind but trapping the cold. The dumpsters are covered in snow, looking like white mounds in a graveyard. Nick looks up at the windows of the apartment building across the narrow street. Most are dark, but one window on the third floor glows with a warm yellow light. A shadow moves across the shade. A life is being lived up there, unaware. This is the nature of the life. It exists parallel to the normal world, separated only by a pane of glass, a thin wall, a decision. Nick thinks about the concept of the stain. The old-timers talk about it. The first time you do something that can't be undone. They say it changes your eyes. They say you lose a certain kind of light. Nick wonders if his eyes have already changed. He wonders if the cold he feels is from the weather, or if it is coming from inside him. He's coming, Frank says. His voice is a low rumble, barely audible. Nick snaps his attention back to the street. A door opens. A man steps out. He is bundled in a heavy coat, a scarf wrapped around his face. He carries a bag of groceries. Just a man, just a Tuesday night. Go, Frank says. Nick puts the car in gear. He doesn't gun the engine. He lets the car roll forward, tires crunching softly on the fresh snow. The sound is almost comforting, like footsteps on gravel. The car glides out of the alley. It moves like a shark in dark water, smooth, silent, inevitable. Nick pulls up alongside the man. The window rolls down. What happens next happens in a blur of motion, but in Nick's memory, it plays out in slow motion. The flash of movement from Frank, the look of confusion on the man's face, the sharp cracking sounds that shatter the silence of the snowy street. Pop, pop. It isn't like the movies. There is no dramatic music, no screaming, just the mechanical sounds of the act and then silence rushing back in to fill the void. Drive, Frank says. Nick drives. He turns the corner, accelerating smoothly. He forces himself not to speed. Speed attracts attention. Normalcy is the camouflage. He merges into traffic on a main avenue. The wipers slap back and forth, clearing the snow that continues to fall, indifferent to what just happened below. The interior of the car feels different now. The air is charged. There's a faint metallic scent, gunpowder, mixing with the smell of the cold vinyl. It is a smell Nick will never forget. It is the scent of the stain. He looks at his hands on the wheel. They are steady, He is surprised by this. His heart is hammering against his ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. But his hands are steady. He is a professional. He is a Calabrese. Frank is calm. He is dismantling the object in his lap, wiping it down with a cloth. He looks over at Nick. "You okay?" Nick stares at the road. The red taillights of the car in front of him blur into streaks. "I'm driving," he says. "Good man," Frank says. "Just drive." They head towards the highway. They need to dispose of the car. They need to burn the clothes. The ritual of the aftermath. It is a cleansing process, a way to wash the physical evidence away. But the internal evidence remains. As they drive, Nick feels a strange detachment. It's as if he is floating above the car, watching himself drive. He sees the snowy city spreading out in all directions, the grid of lights, the dark patches of the parks, the winding snake of the river. He realizes that the city looks different now. Before, it was a place of opportunity. Now, it is a landscape of secrets. Every alleyway, every dark corner holds the potential for violence. And he is now part of that violence. He is no longer just the mechanic, he is part of the engine. They reach a desolate stretch of industrial land near the steel mills. The sky here glows with an orange tint from the sodium lights and the distant furnaces. It looks like a Martian landscape. They abandon the car. Frank pours gasoline over the seats. The smell is pungent, chemical, overpowering. Nick strikes the match. The flame flares up bright and yellow against the gray snow. He tosses it in. The fire catches with a whoosh, a sudden intake of breath. The heat hits Nick's face, pushing back the cold for a moment. He watches the flames lick at the upholstery, curling the vinyl, blackening the glass. They walk away, leaving the burning car behind. They get into another car, the clean car, which was waiting for them. The drive back to the neighborhood is quiet. The radio's off. The only sound is the hum of the tires and the wind whistling past the windows. Nick feels a deep, crushing exhaustion settle over him. It is the crash after the adrenaline. His limbs feel heavy. His eyelids droop. But his mind is wide awake, replaying the scene. The snow, the groceries, the flash. He thinks about the man. He didn't know his name. He didn't know his crimes. In the outfit, you don't ask. You are told a name, and that name becomes a problem to be solved. Nick solved the problem. He wonders if this is how it will always be. If the guilt will fade. If the stain will dry and become just another layer of skin. He looks at Frank. Frank is looking out the window, humming softly. Frank has done this many times. To Frank, it is work. Nick realizes he is alone in his feeling. He cannot share this weight with Frank. Frank wouldn't understand. Frank would see it as weakness. So Nick swallows it. He pushes it down into the dark place where he keeps his fears. They arrive back at the social club. It is late. The card games are over. Only the old caretaker is there, sweeping the floor. The sound of the broom on the tile is rhythmic and soothing. Swish, swish, swish. Nick goes to the bathroom. He scrubs his hands. He scrubs them until the skin is red and raw. He smells the soap, lavender and industrial cleaner. He tries to smell only the soap. He looks in the mirror. His face looks the same. Dark hair, dark eyes. A day's growth of beard. But there's something behind the eyes. A shadow that wasn't there yesterday. The stain. He walks out into the main room. Frank pours 2 brandies. He slides one across the table to Nick. The amber liquid glows in the dim light. "To family," Frank says, raising his glass. Nick hesitates. Then he raises his glass. "To family." He drinks. The brandy burns his throat, a good, clean burn. It settles in his stomach, spreading warmth. He sits back in the chair. The leather creaks. He closes his eyes. Let the scene fade now. The burning car is just a memory. The sound of the shots is just an echo. We are safe here, in the quiet of the club. Imagine the snow falling outside. It is heavier now. It covers the footprints on the sidewalk. It covers the tire tracks in the alley. It covers the city in a blanket of white purity. Nature's indifferent to the sins of men. It just continues. The snow falls, the wind blows, the earth turns. Nick listens to the silence of the room. He listens to his own breathing. In, out, in, out. He is tired, so tired. He lets his head rest against the back of the chair. The darkness of the room merges with the darkness behind his eyelids. He drifts. He thinks of the summer, of the lake, of the sound of waves. He tries to replace the cold of this night with the warmth of that memory. We leave him there, resting in the shadows of the club. A man who has crossed the line, a man who carries a secret that will one day grow too heavy to hold. But for tonight, he sleeps. For tonight, the snow covers everything. The city sleeps with him, a fitful, restless sleep, but sleep nonetheless. Drift with the snow. Let the white noise of the falling flakes fill your mind. Soft, quiet, cold, clean. Time moves differently in the underworld. It doesn't march in a straight line. It circles. We have arrived in 1983. The city of Chicago has shed the skin of the 70s. The cars are sharper, more angular. The skyline is growing, new steel skeletons rising out of the ground to scrape the gray belly of the clouds. The atmosphere of the city has changed too. There's a static charge in the air, a tension that hums like a high-tension wire in the wind. The FBI is getting smarter. The surveillance vans are parking on the side streets. The phones are clicking with strange echoes. The glory days are fading, replaced by an era of paranoia. But tonight, we step away from the noise. We step into the deepest silence Nick Calabrese has ever known. This chapter is about the threshold. It is about the moment a man stops being just a man and becomes something else entirely. It is about the oath. It is a rainy Tuesday evening. The kind of rain that is barely rain at all, just a fine, misty spray that makes the pavement slick and turns the streetlights into blurry, weeping stars. Nick is in the passenger seat of a car he doesn't recognize. He isn't driving. Frank isn't driving. A man he barely knows is behind the wheel, a man who speaks only in grunts and nods. They are driving west, away from the familiar grid of Grand Avenue, out towards the suburbs where the houses are larger and the shadows between them are deeper. Nick sits with his hands folded in his lap. He's wearing his best suit, a charcoal gray wool that itches slightly at the collar. He's been told nothing, but he knows everything. He knows what tonight is. He has waited years for this, feared it, desired it. Making your bones is a phrase used by people who watch movies. But in the car, watching the windshield wipers sweep back and forth, swish, swish, swish. Nick doesn't think about bones. He thinks about gravity. He feels heavier. As if the car is descending into a deep valley, the air pressure rising, pressing against his eardrums. The car pulls into the driveway of a nondescript house in a quiet neighborhood. It looks like every other house on the block. A manicured lawn, a tricycle in the driveway, a warm light in the living room window. But this house is a facade. It is a temple disguised as a suburban dream. They enter through the side door. The air inside is warm and smells of garlic, roasted peppers, and expensive cologne. It is a comforting, grandmotherly smell, which makes the tension in Nick's stomach coil tighter. He is led down a hallway. The floorboards creak softly under the carpet. Creak, step, creak, step. He notices the details, the family photos on the wall, the crucifix hanging above the doorframe. Normalcy, but tilted. They go down to the basement. Basements in Chicago are special places. They are where the wine is made, where the sausages are hung to dry, where the secrets are kept. The air here is cooler, smelling of concrete and damp earth. The room is prepared. A long table. A group of men standing in a semicircle. These are the capos, the bosses, the men whose names are whispered in the social clubs. Joey, the clown, the old-timers. They look different down here. Stripped of the street, they look like judges in a dark court. Frank is there, standing to the side. He catches Nick's eye. He gives a barely perceptible nod. "Be steady," the nod says. "This is it." Nick takes his place. He stands before the table. The silence in the room is absolute. The only sound is the hum of the refrigerator in the corner and the beating of his own heart, which sounds to him like a drum in a canyon. Thump, 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 thump. The ritual is ancient. It goes back to Sicily, to the lemon groves and the sun-baked hills of a land Nick has never seen but carries in his blood. It is a piece of theater, yes, but theater has power. Symbols have weight. One of the bosses steps forward. He speaks in a low, gravelly voice. He speaks of the family, not the family of blood and birth, but the family of this room, the thing that is bigger than any of them. He asks Nick for his hand. Nick extends his right hand. It is steady. He wills it to be steady. The boss takes it. His grip is dry and firm. He holds a needle, a silver pin that catches the light of the single bulb hanging from the rafters. "This is the blood," the boss says. A quick prick. A sharp, stinging bite on the trigger finger. Nick doesn't flinch. He watches a single drop of dark red blood well up, a perfect sphere on the tip of his finger. It looks impossibly bright in the dim room. The boss produces a card. A holy card. It depicts a saint, perhaps Saint Michael, the archangel with the sword, or the Virgin Mary. It is a small piece of paper, flimsy and cheap. He smears the drop of blood onto the face of the saint. The paper absorbs it, the red stain spreading into the white halo. He places the card in Nick's cupped hands. "Now," the boss says, "fire." He strikes a match. The smell of sulfur flares sharp and acrid, cutting through the smell of the garlic. He touches the flame to the corner of the card. The paper catches instantly. The flame is blue at the base, orange at the tip. It dances in Nick's palms. "Repeat after me," the boss intones. The words are heavy, formal, archaic. "If I betray the secrets of this family, may my soul burn in hell like this saint." Nick repeats the words. His voice sounds strange to him, distant, as if someone else is speaking. "If I betray the secrets of this family, may my soul burn." The heat of the fire bites into his palms. It hurts, a searing, focused pain. But he does not drop the card. He is not allowed to drop it. He must hold it until it turns to ash. He must feel the burn. This is the contract. The pain is the seal. He watches the face of the saint curl and blacken. The image dissolves into smoke. The ash crumbles, soft and gray, drifting through his fingers to the concrete floor. "You are a friend of ours," the boss says. He smiles. It is a shark smile, devoid of warmth but full of welcome. The tension in the room breaks. The men step forward. They hug him. They kiss him on both cheeks. The rough stubble of their beards scrapes against his skin. The kiss of death, the poets call it. But here, it is the kiss of life. A new life. "Congratulations, Nick," Frank whispers, pulling him into a bear hug. "You're made. You're one of us now. Forever." Forever. The word hangs in the basement air. Nick looks at his hands. There's a small smudge of ash on his palm. A blister is forming where the fire touched him. He rubs his thumb over it. It is a brand. He has been marked. The rest of the night is a blur of celebration. Food is brought out. Wine is poured. The men laugh and tell stories of the old days. But Nick feels detached. He feels like a man who has just walked through a mirror. He looks the same, but everything is reversed. He is no longer Nicholas Calabrese, the mechanic, the brother. He is a soldier, a made man. He belongs to history now. Later, much later, they drive back to the city. The rain has stopped. The streets are wet and black, reflecting the neon signs. Nick sits in the passenger seat again. He is exhausted. A deep spiritual exhaustion that seeps into his marrow. He looks out the window at the passing houses. He sees a man walking a dog, a couple arguing on a corner, a police car cruising slowly down a side street. He feels separated from them by a vast, invisible chasm. They are civilians. They live in the light. He lives in the shadow. And tonight, the shadow has claimed him completely. He looks at his finger. The prick has stopped bleeding. It is just a tiny red dot, A period at the end of a sentence. He thinks about the oath. May my soul burn. He wonders if he believes in hell. He wonders if the men in that basement believe in it, or if it is just words to keep the fear alive. The car hums along the expressway. The city skyline looms ahead, a fortress of light. It looks beautiful from a distance, majestic. But Nick knows what happens in the basements. He knows what happens in the alleys. He knows the price of the lights. They drop him off at his car. He gets in. He sits for a moment in the silence. The smell of the sulfur and the burning paper seems to cling to his clothes. He drives home. The streets are empty. It is 4 a.m. The city is asleep. He enters his house. It is quiet. The clock on the wall ticks loudly. Tick, tock, tick, tock. He goes to the bathroom. He washes his hands again. He watches the ash wash away, but the blister remains, a small white bubble of skin. He looks at himself in the mirror. Soldier, he whispers. The word sounds foreign. He goes to bed. He lies next to his wife. He can hear her breathing, slow and rhythmic. He's careful not to touch her with his burned hand. He keeps it on top of the covers, open to the cool air. He closes his eyes. He tries to sleep, but behind his eyelids, he sees the flame. He sees the curling paper. He hears the chant, "May I burn." But slowly, the fatigue takes over. The rhythm of his wife's breathing anchors him. The safety of the house wraps around him. The basement is far away. The fire is out. Drift now. Let the image of the fire fade. Let the ash blow away in the wind. Imagine the rain starting again outside. A gentle, cleansing rain. It washes the roof. It washes the driveway. It washes the city. Listen to the sound of the rain against the window pane. Tap, tap, tap. A gentle lullaby. Nick sleeps. He is a made man now. But in sleep, he is just a man. The dreams come, and for a few hours, the oath is silent. The night holds him. The darkness protects him. We are moving forward now, deeper into the decade. It is June 1986. The city of Chicago is sweltering under an early summer heat wave. The asphalt is soft and sticky underfoot. The air is thick with humidity, smelling of hot tar and exhaust fumes. The cicadas are singing in the trees, a rising and falling buzz that sounds like an electrical current running through the air. But tonight, we are leaving the city. We are leaving the grid of safe, illuminated streets. We are driving south, past the industrial smokestacks of Gary, past the tangled interchanges of the highways, and into the deep, quiet darkness of the Indiana countryside. Tonight, the story moves to a cornfield. There is a specific kind of silence in a cornfield at night. It is not empty silence. It is a living silence. The wind rustles the tall stalks. Shh, 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 like 1,000 people whispering secrets to one another. The earth smells rich and damp. The sky is vast, a black dome scattered with stars that look cold and indifferent. Nick is in a car again. He's always in a car. But this time, the convoy is larger. A procession of sedans moving down a gravel road, their headlights cutting tunnels through the dust. The gravel crunches under the tires. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They are heading to a farmhouse. It sits alone in the middle of the sea of corn, a white island in a green ocean. The windows are dark. The porch light is off. It looks abandoned. A ghost house. Nick feels a different kind of tension tonight. This isn't just a collection. This isn't a warning. This is a shifting of the tectonic plates. The men they are meeting, Tony and Michael, are not small players. Tony is the Ant, the man in Vegas, a name that rings out in the newspapers. But out here, names don't matter. Out here, there is only the hierarchy of the night. They park the cars behind the barn, hidden from the road. The engines are cut. The silence rushes back in, heavy and suffocating. The heat is oppressive, clinging to their clothes. Nick gets out. He stretches his legs. The ground is uneven, clumpy dirt and dry grass. He looks at the corn. The stalks are high over his head. You could walk 10 feet into that field and vanish. You could be swallowed whole. He walks to the house. The wood of the porch steps groans under his weight. Inside, the air is stagnant. It smells of dust and old wood. There is no furniture, just an empty room, a stage set for a tragedy. They wait in the basement. Again, the descent. The stairs are steep. The air grows cooler as they go down. The floor is concrete, cracked and stained. The waiting is the hardest part. Nick stands in the corner, leaning against the rough foundation wall. He listens to the breathing of the other men. There are more of them tonight. A dozen men. The A-team of the outfit. They are waiting for the brothers. The Spilatros. Nick thinks about the concept of brotherhood. He looks at Frank, standing across the room. Frank looks calm, stone-faced. Nick wonders if Frank ever feels the fear that gnaws at Nick's stomach. Probably not. Frank is iron. Nick is the alloy, trying to hold it together. He hears a car approaching, the sound of tires on gravel. Crunch, crunch. The lights sweep across the basement windows high up on the wall. Shadows stretch and spin across the floor. The door opens upstairs. Footsteps, voices, greetings. Hey, Tony. Hey, Mike. The tone is friendly. Too friendly. It is the false warmth of a predator luring prey. Then, the descent. The brothers come down the stairs. They see the men waiting. They see the gloves. They see the look in the eyes. And in that instant, the air changes. The molecule of hope evaporates. The room becomes a vacuum. We will not linger on the violence. That is not the purpose of this sleep story. We are here for the atmosphere, not the horror. Let us step back. Let us float up, out of the basement, through the floorboards, through the roof, and into the night sky above the farmhouse. From up here, the house looks small, a tiny box of light and noise in a vast landscape of darkness. The cornfields stretch out for miles in every direction, a patchwork quilt of shadows. The wind blows. The corn whispers, shh, shh. Nature is the ultimate witness. It sees everything and says nothing. The owls in the trees watch with wide golden eyes. The field mice scurry through the furrows. The earth waits to receive what is given to it. Down below, the silence returns to the house. The act is done. The energy has been expended. Now comes the labor, the digging. Nick is outside now. The air feels good after the basement, but it is hot work. He's in the field, a few miles away. The ground is hard. The shovels bite into the earth with a rhythmic sound. Chink, scoop, chink, scoop. He is sweating. His shirt sticks to his back. He pauses to wipe his forehead. He looks up at the stars. The Big Dipper. Orion. The same stars that look down on the Caesars. The same stars that look down on the trenches of wars. He feels a profound sense of insignificance. Who are they really? Just men digging a hole in a field in Indiana. In 100 years, who will care? Who will remember? But the earth remembers. The earth keeps the score. They lower the brothers into the ground. They are together. Brothers in life. Brothers in death. There is a strange, twisted poetry to it. They fill the hole. The dirt rains down. Soft thud. Soft thud. It takes time. The pile of earth diminishes. The ground becomes flat again. They scatter leaves and stalks over the fresh dirt to hide the scar. When they are finished, Nick leans on his shovel. His breathing is heavy. His arms ache. He looks at the patch of ground. It looks like nothing, just a piece of a field. But he knows. He will always know. The geography of his mind now has a new landmark, a black spot on the map. They walk back to the cars, they clean the tools, they change their clothes, the ritual of purification. The drive back to Chicago is long. The adrenaline has faded, leaving a hollow, echoing emptiness. Nick drives. He stares at the white lines on the highway. Dash, dash, dash. He thinks about Tony Spilatro. The man was a king in Vegas. He had money, power, fame. And it ended here, in a dirt hole in a cornfield. It is a stark lesson in the fragility of their world. There is no tenure in the outfit. There is no retirement plan. There is only the day you are useful and the day you are not. The car hums. Frank is asleep in the passenger seat. His head lolls against the window. He can sleep, he can turn it off. Nick cannot. His mind is a projector, replaying the images on the back of his eyelids. The look on Michael's face, the sound of the shovel, the smell of the dirt. They cross the state line back into Illinois. The sky is beginning to lighten in the east, a bruised purple bruise on the horizon. Dawn is coming. The city appears ahead. The skyline is gray and ghostly in the morning mist. The lights are flickering out one by one. Nick feels a strange comfort seeing the city. It is a concrete jungle, yes, but it is his jungle. The cornfields were too open, too quiet. The city has noise to drown out the thoughts. He drops Frank off. They don't speak much. A nod, a grunt. Get some sleep. Nick drives home. He parks the car. He sits for a moment, listening to the engine cool. Tick, tick, tick. He looks at his hands. He scrubbed them, but he can still feel the grit of the Indiana soil under his fingernails. He rubs his thumb against his fingers. It's not there, but he feels it. He walks into his house. The morning paper is on the driveway. He picks it up. The headline is about the weather. A heat wave. He goes inside. The house is cool. The air conditioning is humming. It is a different world. A world of comfort and safety. He takes a shower. He stands under the hot water for a long time. He lets it beat against his shoulders, washing away the sweat and the dust. He watches the water swirl down the drain. He thinks about the field. He thinks about the corn growing over that spot, the roots reaching down, the cycle of life and death. He dries off. He puts on clean pajamas. He climbs into bed. The sheets are cool and smooth. His wife is waking up. "You're late," she mumbles sleepily. "Work ran long," Nick says. The lie comes easily now. It is automatic. "Go to sleep," she says, turning over. Nick closes his eyes. He tries to find the rhythm of sleep, but in the silence of the bedroom, he hears the wind in the corn. Shh, shh. He realizes that the silence will never be truly silent again. The field will always be there, whispering in the back of his mind. But he is tired. The body demands rest. Slowly, the exhaustion pulls him down. The whispering fades to a background hum. The image of the field blurs. He drifts. He floats. The city wakes up around him. The traffic starts. The trains run. The world continues. But deep in the earth of Indiana, the secret sleeps. And Nick sleeps with it. Let the image of the cornfield fade. Focus on the cool sheets, the sound of the fan, the morning light filtering through the curtains. You are safe here. The night is over. Sleep. The years drift by like smoke in a drafty room. We are in the late 1980s now. The city of Chicago is changing again. The grit of the 70s is being scrubbed away, replaced by the glossy veneer of a new corporate era. The skyline is taller, sharper, dominated by the black steel of the Sears Tower, which watches over the grid like a dark sentinel. But down on the street, the game remains the same. Only the stakes have changed, and the eyes watching the game have multiplied. Tonight, we find Nick Calabrese sitting in a diner on Ogden Avenue. It is 2 a.m. The diner is an island of fluorescent light in a sea of darkness. The windows are steamed up, creating a milky, opaque barrier between the inside and the outside world. Listen to the sounds of the diner, the hum of the refrigerator case, the clatter of heavy ceramic plates being stacked, the hiss of the coffee machine, hiss, clatter, hum. Nick is sitting in a booth at the back. He likes the back. He likes the wall behind him. He stirs his coffee. The spoon chimes softly against the cup. Ting, ting, ting. He is waiting. Waiting is the permanent state of his existence now, but the waiting feels different than it used to. In the old days, it felt like boredom. Now, it feels like pressure. It feels like the air in the room is being slowly pumped out. He looks out the window, rubbing a circle in the condensation with his thumb. He sees a dark sedan parked across the street. 2 men in the front seat. They aren't doing anything. They are just sitting, watching. The FBI, the G-men. They are part of the landscape now, like the potholes or the streetlights. You see them everywhere, in the rearview mirror, at the next table in the restaurant, standing on the corner reading a newspaper that is 3 days old. Nick takes a sip of his coffee. It is lukewarm. He feels like he is living in a glass cage. The walls are transparent, but they are solid. Every move he makes, every hand he shakes, every envelope he passes, it is all being recorded, photographed, logged in a file somewhere in a federal building downtown. Frank slides into the booth opposite him. Frank looks older now. The stress is wearing on him. His eyes are darting, restless. He doesn't look at the menu. He looks at Nick. "You checked the phone?" Frank whispers. "I checked it," Nick says. "It's clean." "You can't trust the phones," Frank mutters. "They're listening to the air, Nicky. They got things that can hear through windows." Nick nods. He knows Frank is paranoid, but he also knows Frank is right. The technology is closing in on them. The silence they used to rely on is being filled with electronic noise. "The collection on Grand," Frank says, his voice low and urgent. "Why is it light?" "Economy is bad, Frank. People don't have it." "Make them have it," Frank snaps. He grips the edge of the table. His knuckles are white. "We have obligations. We have to kick up. If we're light, I'm the one who takes the heat." Nick looks at his brother. He sees the fear behind the aggression. The outfit is shrinking. The money is drying up. The old bosses are going to prison. The structure is crumbling, and Frank is trying to hold up the ceiling with his bare hands. Andy is using Nick as the prop. "I'll handle it," Nick says quietly. "I'll go back tomorrow." "Don't go back," Frank says. "Finish it, tonight." Nick sighs. He looks at his watch. 2:15 a.m. There is no rest, no peace. "Okay," Nick says. "Tonight." He stands up. He puts a few crumpled bills on the table for the coffee. He walks out of the diner. The cold air hits him. He walks to his car. He glances at the dark sedan across the street. The heads of the 2 men turn slightly to follow him. They don't hide it anymore. They want him to know. It's psychological warfare. We are here. We are waiting. Nick gets into his car. He starts the engine. He pulls out. The dark sedan pulls out too. It stays 3 car lengths behind. Nick drives. He isn't going to the collection. He can't go to work with a tail. He has to dry clean himself. He has to shake the ghost. He drives towards the highway. He speeds up. The sedan speeds up. He exits suddenly, cutting across 3 lanes. The sedan follows, tires screeching. He weaves through the side streets of the neighborhood. Left, right, left again, down an alley, through a parking lot. He drives with a cold mechanical precision. He knows these streets better than the agents do. He knows which alleys connect. He knows which lights are long. Finally, after 20 minutes of cat and mouse, he loses them. He pulls into a darkened garage behind a friend's auto shop. He kills the lights. He waits. A minute passes, then 2. The dark sedan cruises past the entrance of the alley, slow and shark-like. But it doesn't stop. It keeps going. Nick lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He is safe. For now. But the feeling of the cage remains. He leans his head back against the headrest. He closes his eyes. He thinks about the concept of freedom. He used to think money was freedom. Then he thought power was freedom. Now he realizes that freedom is just anonymity. Freedom is being a nobody. A man who can walk down the street without turning his head. A man who can talk on the phone without hearing a click. He misses that. He misses the version of himself that didn't exist in a file. He drives to a payphone, a real phone. One on a corner, exposed to the wind. He puts in a quarter. The coin drops with a heavy metallic clunk. He dials his home number. It rings. 1, 2, 3. "Hello?" His wife's voice, sleepy, worried. "It's me," Nick says. "Where are you? It's late." "I know, working. I'll be home soon." "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine." He hangs up. He stands there for a moment, holding the receiver. He listens to the dial tone. A flat, monotonous note. He wonders if they heard that. If they are recording the I love yous and the I'll be homes. He wonders if there is any part of his life that is truly his own. He gets back in the car. The rain starts to fall again. It streaks the windshield, distorting the lights of the city into long, bleeding ribbons of color. He drives aimlessly for a while. He doesn't want to go do the collection. He doesn't want to go home and bring the shadow with him. He just wants to drive. The car is his capsule. It is the only place where he feels semi-autonomous. The hum of the engine is his mantra. He finds himself driving by the lake. The water is black and turbulent, crashing against the concrete barriers. The spray flies up, hitting the windshield. He parks the car looking out over the water. He turns off the engine. The silence rushes in, filled only by the sound of the wind and the waves. He thinks about Frank. The bond between them is fraying. Frank is becoming a stranger, a dangerous stranger. Nick feels the weight of loyalty pulling against the weight of survival. He realizes that the cage isn't built by the FBI. It is built by Frank. It is built by the oath. It is built by the blood on the saint card. He is trapped. He watches a lighthouse blinking in the distance. Flash, dark, a warning, keep away, dangerous rocks. Nick closes his eyes. He lets the sound of the waves lull him. He imagines he's on a boat, sailing away from the city, away from the phones, away from the brothers, just drifting into the dark, quiet horizon. The rain drums on the roof of the car, a rhythmic, soothing tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Let the sound wash over you. The rain is a curtain. It hides you. It protects you. Inside the car, it is warm. It is dry. You are safe here. The G-men are gone. The collection can wait. The phone is silent. There is only the rain and the dark and the rhythmic breathing of the lake. Drift, float, be still. The city behind you is just a painting. It cannot touch you tonight. Tonight, you are just a man in a car watching the rain. The world has shrunk. The vast, sprawling city of Chicago, with its endless grid of streets and its wide, open lake, is gone. It has been replaced by a world of concrete and steel that measures exactly 8 feet by 10 feet. We have moved forward in time to the mid-1990s. The location is no longer a social club or a midnight alley. It is the Federal Correctional Institution, a place designed to strip a man of his history and leave him with nothing but time. In this chapter, we explore the erosion of the soul. We listen to the rhythm of incarceration. It is a slow, grinding rhythm, like a heavy stone being dragged across a floor. Close your eyes and listen to the sound of the prison at night. It is never truly silent. There is the hum of the high-voltage lights that buzz like angry insects. There is the distant clang of a gate closing, boom, echo, echo, reverberating through the steel catwalks. There is the sound of 1,000 men breathing, coughing, turning in their bunks. Nick is lying on his cot. The mattress is thin, smelling of industrial disinfectant. He stares at the ceiling. He knows every crack in the paint. He knows the shape of every stain. He traces them with his eyes over and over again. A map to nowhere. He is here with Frank. They were taken down together. The juice loan conspiracy. The government finally got their hooks in. The prison hasn't brought them closer. It has turned the pressure cooker up to the breaking point. Frank is in the cell block nearby. Even in here, Frank tries to be the boss. He walks the yard with his chest puffed out. He holds court at the chow hall tables. He is desperate to maintain the illusion of power. But Nick sees the cracks. Imagine the prison yard on a gray winter afternoon. The sky is the color of wet ash. The wind whips over the high walls, swirling the dust in little cyclones. Men walk the track, round and round and round, a human carousel that never stops. Nick is walking. He counts his steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. It keeps his mind focused. It keeps the panic at bay. Frank falls in step beside him. Frank doesn't count. Frank talks. "We gotta hold the line, Nicky," Frank whispers. His voice is raspy, urgent. "They're gonna come at us hard. They want the big stuff, the hits." Nick keeps walking. He looks straight ahead at the gray wall. "I know, Frank." "You gotta stay strong," Frank says. He grips Nick's arm. His fingers dig in, sharp and painful, through the thin prison jacket. "Don't let them get in your head. You remember the oath. You remember the basement." Nick pulls his arm away gently. "I remember." But the way Frank says it, it doesn't sound like encouragement anymore. It sounds like a threat. The dynamic has shifted. In the car, on the street, Frank was the protector. Here, stripped of his money and his freedom, Frank is becoming a cornered animal, and cornered animals bite. Nick walks back to his cell. The door slides shut with that definitive crushing sound. Clang. He sits on the edge of his bunk. He thinks about the visits. His wife comes to see him. She sits behind the glass partition. She looks tired. Her hair is graying. She tells him about the kids, about the bills, about the loneliness. He puts his hand against the glass. She puts her hand against the glass. They are inches apart but separated by a universe. He sees the pain in her eyes. He realizes that he didn't just sentence himself to this place. He sentenced her too. She is doing time out there, just as he is doing time in here. And for what? For Frank? For the outfit? He looks at the photo of Frank he has taped to the wall. He rips it down. He crumples it up. The paper makes a dry, crinkling sound. He tosses it into the metal toilet. The days turn into weeks, the weeks into months. The monotony is a physical weight. Wake up, count, eat, walk, count, sleep. One evening in the library, Frank corners him again. The library is quiet, smelling of old paper and dust. "I heard you're talking to the chaplain," Frank says. His eyes are narrowed, suspicious. "I'm just talking, Frank, about God, about forgiveness." Frank sneers. "Forgiveness? There's no forgiveness for rats, Nicky. You remember that. You keep your mouth shut. Or else." He lets the sentence hang in the air. Or else. It is the moment the glass finally shatters, the moment the brother dies and only the monster remains. Frank isn't worried about Nick's soul. He's worried about his own skin. He's willing to sacrifice Nick, to sacrifice Nick's family, to save himself. Nick feels a cold clarity wash over him. It is colder than the prison yard, colder than the cornfield. He realizes he's alone, truly alone. The brotherhood was a lie. The loyalty was a one-way street. He goes back to his cell. He lies down. He listens to the sounds of the night, the coughing, the murmuring, the keys jingling on the guard's belt as he makes his rounds. Jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle. He closes his eyes. He imagines a thread, a thin red thread that has connected him to Frank his whole life. It is wrapped around his neck, choking him. In his mind, he reaches for a pair of scissors. He visualizes the blades, silver, sharp. He cuts the thread. Snip. The tension releases. The line falls away. He breathes. For the first time in 20 years, the breath goes all the way down to the bottom of his lungs. He is still in a cage. The steel bars are still there. The guards are still watching. But inside, something has shifted. The fear is being replaced by something else. Resolve. He thinks about the letter he hasn't written yet, the letter to the FBI, the letter that says, "I want to talk." He doesn't write it tonight. He isn't ready yet. But the thought is there. A seed planted in the concrete floor of his cell. Drift now. Let the sound of the prison fade away. The clanging doors become distant bells. The shouting becomes a murmur of the wind. Imagine the walls dissolving. Imagine the ceiling opening up to reveal the night sky. The same stars that watch the cornfield are watching the prison. They are indifferent, but they are free. Nick sleeps. It is a restless sleep full of shadows, but it is the sleep of a man who has made a decision, even if he doesn't know it yet. The echo of the steel door fades. The silence returns. The prison is left behind. We are now in a place that feels like nowhere. It is a room with no history and no future. It is a secure conference room in a federal building, somewhere in the labyrinth of the government. It is the year 2002. The world outside has changed drastically. It is faster, louder, more connected. But in this room, time stands still. The walls are soundproofed, covered in beige fabric that absorbs every noise. The air is filtered, cool and odorless. Nick sits at a long oval table. The surface is polished wood, reflecting the fluorescent lights overhead like a dark pool of water. He's wearing orange again, the jumpsuit of the inmate. But he feels different. He feels like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a fog that hides the bottom. Across from him sit the agents. They are not the shadows in the sedan anymore. They are men with names. They wear suits that are slightly rumpled. They have tired eyes. They have notebooks and pens arranged neatly in front of them. And in the center of the table sits the machine, a tape recorder. It is small, black, unassuming. But to Nick, it looks like a bomb. The silence in the room is thick. You can hear the low, steady hum of the ventilation system. Hum, whoosh, hum, whoosh. It is the only sound in the world. Nick looks at the machine. He thinks about the oath he took in the basement all those years ago. May my soul burn. He feels the ghost of that burn on his finger. He hears the echo of the chant. But then he hears another voice, Frank's voice. There is no forgiveness for rats. He realizes that the oath was a contract, and Frank broke it first. Frank didn't protect him. Frank used him. Frank was ready to kill him. The loyalty was a mirage. An agent clears his throat. It is a soft sound, but it cracks the silence like a gunshot. Whenever you're ready, Nick, the agent says gently. Nick reaches for the styrofoam cup in front of him. He takes a sip of water. The cup is light, flimsy. His hand trembles, just a fraction. He sets it down. He looks at the spinning wheels of the tape recorder. They are waiting. He opens his mouth. The first word is the hardest. It feels like dislodging a stone from his throat. He starts. His voice is raspy, unused. He clears his throat. I want to tell you about the outfit. The wheels turn. Click whirr, and then the dam breaks. Not with a roar, but with a steady, quiet stream. He begins to speak. He talks about the street tax. He talks about the bombings. He talks about the brothers in the cornfield. He talks about the man in the snow. As he speaks, he feels a physical sensation of lightness. It is as if he is taking off a heavy coat of armor, piece by rusty piece. The breastplate, the helmet, the gauntlets, they fall to the floor with a silent crash. The agent's right. The scratch of their pens on paper is a rhythmic accompaniment to his voice. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. They don't interrupt. They don't judge. They just listen. They are the priests of this new confession. Nick closes his eyes as he talks. He's back in the car. He's back in the alley. He's back in the basement. But this time, he's describing it from the outside. He's painting a picture of a world that is already dead. He talks for hours. The tape is flipped, click-clack, side B. The light in the room doesn't change. There are no windows to show the passing of the sun. It is an eternal afternoon. He talks about Frank. He tells them everything, the orders, the betrayals, the greed. He dismantles the myth of his brother. He takes the statue of the boss and smashes it into dust. It is a betrayal. Yes, the ultimate betrayal. But as Nick speaks, he realizes it is also an act of survival. He is saving the only thing he has left, the truth. Finally, he stops. The story is caught up to the present. The well is dry for today. The agent reaches out and presses the stop button. Click. The silence rushes back in. But it is a different kind of silence now. It is empty. The secrets are gone. They are trapped in the magnetic tape, coiled tight in the plastic cassette. We're done for today, the agent says. Nick nods. He feels exhausted, drained, hollowed out. But he also feels clean. A strange, antiseptic cleanliness. He is led out of the room. The handcuffs are placed back on his wrists. The cold steel feels familiar. Click, click. He has walked down a long, white hallway. The floor is linoleum, shiny and hard. His footsteps squeak softly. Squeak, squeak. He's taken to a holding cell. It is solitary. Just a cot and a toilet. He lies down. He stares at the ceiling. He wonders what Frank is doing right now. Does he feel it? Does he feel the shift in the universe? Does he know that the foundation has just crumbled? Nick closes his eyes. He doesn't see the fire of the saint anymore. He sees the spinning wheels of the tape recorder round and round, unwinding the past. He realizes he has crossed the final line. There is no going back. He is a witness now. A man marked for death by his former friends, and a man marked for prison by the law. But he is his own man again. The ventilation hums. Hum, whoosh. He lets the sound carry him. He imagines the tape unspooling into a long black ribbon that stretches out the door, down the hall, and out into the world. He sleeps. It is a deep, dreamless sleep, the sleep of the empty. The room of mirrors is behind him. The image is shattered. The year is 2007. The summer sun is baking the pavement outside the Dirksen Federal Building in downtown Chicago. But inside, on the 25th floor, it is a perpetual climate-controlled autumn. The air is cool, dry, and smells of furniture polish and legal briefs. This is the courtroom, the final stage. We enter the room before the jury, before the judge, before the lawyers. In the early morning silence, the courtroom feels like a church. The rows of spectator benches are empty pews. The judge's bench is a high altar of dark mahogany. The flags, the stars and stripes, the seal of the court, hang limp and still in the corners. Listen to the room breathe. The ventilation system is a low, constant whisper, a white noise that covers everything. Shh, shh. The fluorescent lights hum with a faint, insect-like vibration. Nick is in a holding room adjacent to the court. He's wearing a suit again. It is a gray suit, conservative, nondescript. It feels strange on his body after years of prison uniforms. The collar feels tight. The tie feels like a noose, but a necessary one. He's waiting for the door to open. He's waiting to walk into the theater of ghosts. The door opens. A marshal nods. Time to go, Nick. He walks out. The transition is jarring. The courtroom is full now. The gallery is packed with reporters, families, and curiosity seekers. But a hush falls over the room as he enters. It is a heavy, tangible silence. Every eye turns to him. He walks to the witness stand. The wood of the floor is solid under his feet. Step, step, step. He climbs the small steps to the chair. He sits. To his left is the jury. 12 strangers. They look at him with a mix of fascination and horror. To them, he is a creature from a movie, a monster from the deep. To his right at the defense tables are the ghosts. There is Joey, the clown Lombardo, looking like a grandfatherly figure in his wheelchair, but with eyes that still hold the glint of the street. There is Jimmy Marcello, and there, staring straight ahead, is Frank. Frank Calabrese Sr., the brother, the mentor, the tormentor. Nick looks at him. For a moment, time collapses. He is back in the Lincoln. He is back in the basement. He sees the young Frank, the strong Frank. But the image fades. The man at the table is old. His face is a mask of fury and betrayal, but it is an impotent fury. He is trapped in the same legal amber as everyone else. Nick turns his attention to the prosecutor, a man with a stack of files. State your name for the record. Nicholas Calabrese. His voice is soft. He leans into the microphone. The sound is amplified, filling the room, bouncing off the high ceiling. Nicholas Calabrese. The questioning begins. It is a slow, rhythmic dance. Were you a member of the Chicago outfit? Yes. And what was your role? I was a soldier. The words float in the air. Soldier, outfit. They sound archaic here in this sterile room of law. They belong to the night, to the alleyways, not to this bright fluorescent lit box. As Nick speaks, he falls into a trance. He is narrating his own life as if it belongs to someone else. He tells the stories we have lived through in this sleep journey, the juice loans, the burnings, the diggings. He hears the court reporter typing. Her fingers move across the stenotype machine with a soft, clattering sound. Click, 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 click. She is transcribing the blood into ink. She is turning the chaos into a permanent record. Nick looks out the window. He can see a sliver of the sky. It is a brilliant, hard blue. A pigeon flies past, a flash of gray wings against the blue. It is free. It has no history. He looks back at Frank. Frank is whispering to his lawyer. He's shaking his head. He's writing notes furiously on a yellow legal pad. The scratching of the pen is audible in the quiet moments. Scritch, scratch. Nick feels a strange emotion. It isn't hate. It isn't love. It is pity. Pity for Frank. Pity for himself. Pity for the wasted years. They spent their lives chasing power, chasing respect. And it all ended here, in a room full of strangers judging them. The hours drag on. The rhythm of the questions becomes hypnotic. And then what happened? And who was there? And what did you do? Nick answers. He unspools the thread. He empties the vault. The jury listens. They lean forward. They are pulled into the story. They are walking the wet streets with him. They are feeling the cold wind off the lake. But Nick is alone in the chair. The witness stand is a lonely island. He is separated from the defense by the truth, and from the jury by his crimes. He exists in the space between. Finally, the day ends. The judge bangs the gavel. It is a dull wooden thud. Thump. Court is adjourned. The spell breaks. The room erupts into a low murmur of conversation. Papers are shuffled. Briefcases are snapped shut. Snap. Click. Nick stands up. He steps down from the box. He doesn't look at the defense table. He doesn't look at Frank. He walks back towards the door he came in. He walks back into the holding room. The door closes. The noise of the courtroom is cut off instantly. Silence returns. He sits down on the bench. He loosens his tie. He takes a deep breath. The air in here is stale, but it is quiet. He realizes that the worst is over. He has faced the ghosts. He has looked them in the eye and told the truth. They couldn't hurt him. Their stares were just stares. Their anger was just noise. The power they held over him, the fear of the basement, the fear of the trunk music, is gone. It evaporated in the cool air of the courtroom. He closes his eyes. He imagines the ledger, the big book of the outfit. He imagines closing it. A heavy, leather-bound book. He shuts it with a resounding thud. He puts it on a shelf. He walks away. He is tired, a bone-deep fatigue. But it is a good tired, the kind of tired that comes after a long journey. He waits for the marshals to take him back. Back to the cell. Back to safety. Drift now. Let the image of the courtroom fade. The mahogany wood dissolves. The flags droop and vanish. The faces of the jury blur into a sea of gray. There is only the silence of the holding room, the hum of the lights, the beat of your own heart. The ghosts are gone. You are safe. The trial is over. The lawyers have packed their briefcases. The cameras have been turned off. The courtroom is locked and dark. But the story isn't over. Now comes the time between times, the purgatory of the verdict. We are in a safe house now. It is located somewhere in the Midwest, far from the skyscrapers of Chicago. It is a small, nondescript bungalow on the edge of a military base. The nearest neighbor is a mile away. The landscape is flat and open, covered in tall prairie grass that ripples in the wind like a green sea. It is raining again. A slow, steady, soaking rain that turns the dirt roads to mud and drums a constant rhythm on the roof. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Nick sits in the living room. The furniture is mismatched. A floral sofa, a brown recliner, a coffee table with a cigarette burn on the edge. It is the furniture of transient lives. He is alone. The marshals are in the next room, playing cards, their laughter muffled by the wall. But in this room, there is only Nick and the television. The TV is tuned to a Chicago news station. The volume is low. He watches the images flicker on the screen. He sees the sketches of himself in court. He sees the photos of Frank. He sees the reporters standing in the rain outside the courthouse, talking into microphones. It feels surreal. They're talking about a history that he lived, but they make it sound like a movie. They talk about the outfit, as if it were a dragon that has been slain. Nick looks out the window. The rain blurs the world into gray streaks. He thinks about the verdict. The jury is deliberating. 12 people in a room are deciding the fate of the men who used to run the city. He wonders what Frank is thinking right now in his cell. Is he still angry, or has the silence finally broken him? Nick walks to the kitchen. The linoleum is cold under his socks. He opens the refrigerator. The light hums. Zzzt. Inside, there's a carton of milk, a loaf of bread, a package of bologna, the food of survival. He makes a sandwich. The simple act of spreading mustard on bread is grounding. It is a task. It has a beginning and an end. He eats standing up at the counter. He listens to the rain. He thinks about the concept of home. He realizes he doesn't have one anymore. His house in Chicago is gone, sold or seized. His family is scattered. He's a man without a zip code, a man without a key. He finishes eating. He washes the plate. The water is warm and soapy. He watches the bubbles pop one by one. He goes back to the living room. The news is still on. Breaking news. The banner flashes red at the bottom of the screen. Verdict reached. Nick freezes. He sits down on the edge of the sofa. The cushion sinks under his weight. The reporter on the screen looks excited. She is touching her earpiece. We are getting word now. Guilty. The verdict is guilty. Guilty on all counts. Racketeering, murder, conspiracy. Frank, Joey, Jimmy, all of them. Nick stares at the screen. He expects to feel something. Triumph, relief, joy. But he feels nothing, just a hollow, echoing emptiness. It is the feeling of a building collapsing. The dust settles, and you look at the empty space where the tower used to be. The outfit is dead. The thing that defined his entire life, the thing that gave him purpose and fear and money, it is gone. He helped kill it. He drove the final nail into the coffin. He leans back in the sofa. He closes his eyes. He imagines the city of Chicago reacting to the news, the headlines rolling off the printing presses. Guilty. The old men in the social clubs shaking their heads, the young guys on the corners wondering what happens next. He imagines the ghost of Al Capone, the ghost of Sam Giancana, watching from the shadows. The long lineage of bosses has ended in a federal courtroom. The marshals come into the room. One of them looks at Nick. You hear the news? Nick nods. I heard. It's over, Nick. You did it. Yeah, Nick says softly. It's over. But is it? The legal battle is over. The prison sentences will begin. But the memory remains. The memories are not subject to a jury's verdict. They are sentenced to life in his mind. Night falls on the safe house. The rain continues, heavier now. Thunder rumbles in the distance, a low, rolling growl. Nick turns off the TV. The room plunges into darkness. The only light comes from a street lamp down the road, casting a long, pale rectangle on the floor. He lies down on the sofa. He listens to the storm. He thinks about the brothers in the cornfield. He thinks about the man in the snow. He thinks about the burning saint. They are all ghosts now, and he is the keeper of the graveyard. He tries to sleep, but his mind is active. He replays the trial. He replays the testimony. He wonders if he said everything he needed to say. He realizes that the silence of the safe house is different from the silence of the prison. This is the silence of exile. He is safe, yes, but he is outside the tribe. He is a Ronin, a masterless samurai. He pulls the blanket up to his chin. The wool is scratchy. He focuses on the sound of the rain. It is a cleansing sound. It is washing the world clean. Maybe eventually it will wash him clean too. He imagines the rain falling on the prison in Chicago falling on the roof of the Metropolitan Correctional Center, falling on the window of Frank's cell. He wonders if Frank is listening to the rain too, if, for a brief moment, they are connected again by the sound of the storm. Two brothers, separated by steel bars and a lifetime of secrets, listening to the same rain. Nick takes a deep breath. He lets it out slowly. The day is done. The era is done. Tomorrow is a blank page, a terrifying white blank page. But for tonight, there is just the dark room, the warm blanket, the rhythm of the storm. Drift. Let the thunder lull you. It is far away. It cannot hurt you. The house is solid. The doors are locked. The marshals are watching. You are safe. We move forward one last time in the legal chronology. It is March 2009. The winter is trying to lose its grip on Chicago, but the wind is still cold, and the sky is a flat slate gray. The trees in Grant Park are bare skeletons, waiting for the first green breath of spring. We are back in the courtroom, but the energy is different today. The frenzy of the trial is gone. The reporters are fewer. The gallery is quieter. This is not a battle anymore. It is a reckoning. Today is sentencing day. Nick stands before the bench. The wood of the table in front of him is smooth and cool under his fingertips. He traces the grain of the wood, a swirling pattern that looks like a topographical map of a lost country. He is 66 years old. His hair is thinning. His shoulders are slightly stooped. The suit he wears hangs a little looser than it did 2 years ago. The waiting has carved him down, whittled him away like a piece of driftwood. The judge, James Zagel, sits high above. He's a man of intellect, a man who understands the gravity of history. He looks down at Nick over the rim of his glasses. The silence in the room is profound. It is the silence of a held breath. Nick listens to the prosecutor speak. The words drift through the air like dust motes. Unprecedented cooperation dismantled the organization, but the crimes were severe. It is a balancing act. On one side of the scale, the lives taken, the cornfield, the snow, the basement, heavy, dark stones of guilt. On the other side, the truth, the testimony, the dismantling of the machine. Nick wonders if the scales can ever truly balance. Can 1,000 words of truth outweigh 1 drop of blood? He doesn't think so. But the law is not about divine justice, it is about mathematics. The judge begins to speak. His voice is calm, measured, devoid of theatrics. He talks about the life Nick led. He talks about the choices. He talks about the price. Nick lowers his head. He looks at his shoes. Black leather, polished to a shine. He focuses on the reflection of the overhead lights in the leather. 2 tiny white stars. Mr. Calabrese, the judge says, you are a different man than the one who committed these crimes. Nick feels a lump in his throat. Is he? Or is the killer still in there, sleeping, waiting, remembering? He hopes the judge is right. He hopes the fire of the saint burned the old Nick away, leaving only this shell of regret. I sentence you to 12 years and 4 months. The number hangs in the air. 12 years. For a man of his age, it could be a death sentence, but compared to Frank, who will die in prison, compared to the others who received life, it is a mercy. It is a gift. Nick nods. He accepts it. It is a finite number. It has an end. The gavel comes down. Thwack. It is a sharp, final sound. It cuts the cord. The case is closed. The family secrets are no longer secrets. They are public record, filed away in the archives of the court. Nick turns. He sees his family in the back row. A brief, sad smile. A wave. I'll be okay, the wave says. I'll see you on the other side. He is led away by the marshals. They don't handcuff him immediately. There's a strange respect now. He is the man who walked into the fire and came out with the truth. They walk down the hallway. The floor is tile. Click-clack, click-clack. He enters the elevator. The doors slide shut, sealing him in. The numbers above the door light up in descending order. 25, 24, 23. He feels the descent in his stomach, going down, back to the world of steel and concrete. But this time, The descent feels different. He isn't going down into the darkness of the outfit. He's going down into the quiet of penance. He closes his eyes as the elevator hums. He imagines the years stretching out before him. 12 years, 4,000 days, 4. It will be a time of quiet, a time of reading, a time of thinking. He welcomes it. He is tired of the noise. He is tired of the looking over his shoulder. In prison, there are no decisions to make. You are told when to eat. You are told when to sleep. The burden of free will is taken away. For a man who made so many wrong choices, the absence of choice is a relief. The elevator hits the ground floor with a soft ding. The doors open. They lead him to the van. Outside, it has started to snow. Big, wet flakes that melt as soon as they touch the pavement. Nick steps into the van. The door slams shut. The lock engages. Clunk. He sits on the metal bench. He leans his head against the wall of the van. The vibration of the engine travels through his skull. Hum. The van pulls away. He watches the city pass through the wire mesh of the window. The gray buildings. The people walking with their heads down against the wind. The cars rushing by. He is leaving Chicago, perhaps for the last time. The city that made him, the city he helped bleed. He feels a strange detachment. The city is just a backdrop now, a painted set for a play that has finished its run. The actors are leaving the stage. The lights are being dimmed. He closes his eyes. He listens to the tires on the wet asphalt. Shh, shh, shh. It is a lullaby, the lullaby of the road. He thinks about the number 12. He counts in his head. 1, 2, 3. He drifts. The tension of the sentencing leaves his muscles. His shoulders drop. His jaw unclenches. He's just a passenger now. The destination is set. The route is planned. There's nothing to worry about. The van moves onto the highway. The speed increases. The hum becomes a drone. Nick sleeps. He dreams of a room with white walls, a room with a window looking out on a garden, a place of absolute stillness. The gavel has fallen. The judgment is done. Rest now. The debt is being paid. We have entered the long, straight corridor of time, the years between 2009 and 2020. The location is a federal facility, but it is not the hard, high-security fortress of the early days. It is a lower security prison, a place for the old, the non-violent, and the forgotten. The environment here is quieter. The razor wire is still there, glistening silver in the sun, but the atmosphere inside is less like a war zone and more like a nursing home with bars. Nick is an old man now. He walks with a slower gait. His hair is turned completely white, blending in with the sterile walls of the institution. He has become a ghost among ghosts. In this chapter, we explore the routine of penance. There is no violence here. There are no midnight drives. There's only the rhythm of the clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Nick has found a job. He works in the prison library. It is a small room, smelling of old paper, glue, and dust. The air is still, filled with millions of floating particles that dance in the shafts of sunlight coming through the high, barred windows. He likes the library. It is the quietest place in the prison. It is a sanctuary of words. Imagine Nick standing between the stacks of books. He is shelving returns. He picks up a book. He feels the texture of the cover. He opens it. The spine cracks softly. Crackle. He smooths the pages. He places the book on the metal shelf. Slide. Thud. He moves to the next one. Slide. Thud. It is a meditative action. Order from chaos. Alphabetical, numerical. Everything in its right place. If only life were so easy to organize. If only you could take the years of mistakes and simply file them away under M for mistake or R for regret. He spends his days surrounded by stories. Westerns, romances, thrillers, histories. He reads them all. He escapes into other worlds. He rides across the plains of the 1800s. He sails the high seas. He walks the streets of Paris. For a few hours a day, he is not inmate Calabrese. He is a traveler. The other inmates leave him alone for the most part. They know who he is. They know he was a heavy hitter in the Chicago outfit. They know he testified. But in a low-security prison, the code of the street is diluted. People are just trying to get through their time. They are tired. Sometimes, a young inmate will approach him, a kid, barely 20, in for drugs or theft. He looks at Nick with wide eyes, hungry for war stories. "Hey, old man," the kid whispers. "Is it true? About the movies? About the hits?" Nick looks at the kid over the top of his reading glasses. He sees the ignorance. He sees the romanticization of a life that was nothing but fear and dirt. "Read a book, kid," Nick says softly. He hands the boy a paperback. "Learn something real." He doesn't tell stories. The stories are locked away in the vault of his testimony. He has given them to the government. He has nothing left to give to the curious. The seasons change outside the window. He watches the square of sky turn from the blue of summer to the gray of winter and back again. He watches the leaves on the single tree in the yard turn gold and fall. He counts the years by the snow. 1 winter, 2 winters, 5 winters. He receives letters, not many, but enough to keep a lifeline to the world. His wife writes. She tells him about the grandchildren he barely knows. She sends pictures. He looks at the glossy photos, smiling faces, birthday cakes, graduations. He touches the faces in the photos. He traces the smiles. He feels a deep, aching phantom pain. He amputated himself from this family to save them, but the severance wound never truly heals. One afternoon, in the deep quiet of the library, he finds a book about Chicago, a history book with pictures. He opens it. He sees black and white photos of State Street in the 1950s, the cars, the neon signs, the crowds. He stares at the page. He looks for himself in the crowd. Is that him in the fedora? Is that the Lincoln parked at the curb? He realizes that the city in the book is gone. It exists only on paper and in his head. The Chicago of the outfit, the social clubs, the back rooms, the unspoken rules has been paved over. It is history now, just like the cowboys, just like the Romans. He closes the book. Thump. He puts it back on the shelf. He leaves it there, among the dust. The years soften him. The sharp edges of his anxiety are worn down by the river of time. The fear of retaliation, the fear of Frank's reach, begins to fade. Frank is dying in another prison, miles away. The monster is toothless now. Nick begins to find a strange kind of peace. It is the peace of having no future to worry about. He is just existing. He is a monk in a concrete monastery. He develops a routine for the evening. After lockup, when the lights are dimmed, he sits on his bunk. He closes his eyes. He constructs a house in his mind. It is a simple house, not the one he lived in, but a new one. A house by a lake. He builds it brick by brick. He lays the floorboards. He paints the walls. He furnishes the rooms. He spends hours in this mind palace. He sits on the imaginary porch and watches the imaginary sun set over the water. It is vivid. It is real to him. It is the only property he owns. The prison sounds fade away. The shouting, the clanging, the radios. They become background noise, like the traffic of a distant city. He is learning the art of being nowhere. One night, he dreams of Frank. In the dream, they are young again. They are boys, running through the alleys of the old neighborhood. They are laughing. They are stealing apples from a fruit stand. Frank looks at him and smiles. It is a genuine smile. "Come on, Nicky, run!" They run. They run until their lungs burn. They run into the light. Nick wakes up. His pillow is wet. He touches his cheek. Tears. He hasn't cried in 30 years. Not in the basement, not in the court. He lies in the dark, listening to his heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. He realizes he misses his brother, not the boss, not the killer, but the brother, the blood. He forgives him. In the dark of the cell, with no one to hear, he whispers it. "I forgive you, Frank." It doesn't change anything. Frank is still a monster. The crimes are still real. But the forgiveness cuts the last cord. The weight lifts. Nick rolls over. He pulls the blanket up. The library waits for him tomorrow. The books wait. The dust waits. He is the librarian of his own life now. He is organizing the shelves. He is dusting the memories. He is preparing for closing time. The prison sleeps. The guards walk the perimeter. The moon shines on the razor wire. Inside, the old man drifts. He's floating on the lake in his mind. The water is calm. The air is sweet. He is safe. It is December 2012. Christmas is approaching, but inside the prison walls, the holiday is just a date on the calendar. There are no lights strung up, no carols singing in the streets. There's only the same gray routine, perhaps softened slightly by a special meal in the chow hall. We are deep in the winter of Nick's sentence. He has served nearly 4 years. He has settled into the rhythm of the institution like a stone settling into a riverbed. The water rushes over him, but he does not move. Tonight, the common room is quiet. A few inmates are playing cards at a metal table. Others are reading. Nick is sitting in a plastic chair watching the television mounted high on the wall. It is tuned to a local news channel. Outside, the wind is howling. A blizzard is sweeping across the country, burying the roads, burying the houses, burying the past. The windows rattle in their frames. Rattle hiss, rattle hiss. Nick is half asleep. The drone of the news anchor is a soothing murmur. He's thinking about the snow. He imagines it falling on the streets of Chicago. He imagines Grand Avenue covered in a white sheet, the neon signs glowing softly through the drift. Then he hears a name. It cuts through the fog of his mind like a knife. Frank Calabrese Sr. Nick opens his eyes. He looks at the screen. There's a picture of Frank, not the young Frank, the brother he ran with, but the old Frank, the Frank of the trial, the Frank with the scowl and the cold eyes. Died today at the Federal Medical Center in Butner, North Carolina. The words float in the air. Died. Today. Nick stares at the screen. The room around him seems to vanish. The card players, the guards, the walls, they all dissolve. There is only him and the image of his brother. Frank is dead. The man who defined his life, the man who protected him, the man who corrupted him, the man who tried to kill him, the man he put in prison. Gone. Nick waits for the feeling. He expects a surge of emotion, anger, sadness, joy, but there is only a profound, ringing silence. It is the sound of a heavy machine finally being turned off. The gears have stopped grinding. The engine has cooled. The vibration that has rattled Nick's bones for 60 years has ceased. He looks at his hands. They are steady. He stands up. He walks to the window. He looks out at the dark yard. The snow is swirling in the floodlights, a chaotic dance of white flakes. He realizes that the chain is finally broken. The invisible iron link that connected his ankle to Frank's ankle, dragging them both down into the depths, has snapped. Frank has gone where Nick cannot follow, not yet. He thinks about the theology of it. Where is Frank now? Is he facing the judgment they talked about in the basement? Is he burning like the saint card? Or is there just darkness? Nick breathes against the glass. A small circle of fog appears. Whew. He traces a line through the fog with his finger, a line separating the living from the dead. He feels lighter, physically lighter. The shadow that has loomed over his shoulder his entire life, the shadow of the big brother, is gone. He is standing in his own light now, but with the lightness comes a strange loneliness. He is the last keeper of the secrets. Frank took half the memories with him. Now, Nick carries the whole load alone. He turns away from the window. The news segment is over. They have moved on to the weather. The world keeps turning. Frank Calabrese is just a footnote in the evening news. Nick walks back to his cell. It is almost count time. He enters his small space. He sits on the bunk. He looks at the blank wall. He whispers into the silence. Goodbye, Frank. It is not a sentimental goodbye. It is a closing of the account. It is the final entry in the ledger. Balance, 0. He lies down. He pulls the blanket up. The prison is quiet tonight. Maybe the storm has hushed everyone, or maybe the ghosts are resting. Nick closes his eyes. He imagines the snow falling on Frank's grave, covering the dirt, covering the name, making it white, making it clean. He feels a deep sleep coming on, a sleep different from any he has had before. It is the sleep of a survivor who has outlived the war. The enemy is gone. The general is dead. The soldier can finally rest. He listens to his own breathing. In, out, in, out. He is alive. That is the victory. He is still here. He drifts. The image of Frank fades into the white noise of the snow. The anger fades. The fear fades. There is just peace. Cold, quiet, empty peace. The wind howls outside, but inside, it is still. The clock on the wall ticks slower when you are near the door. That is the paradox of time. When you have 10 years, time flies like a bird. When you have 10 days, it crawls like an insect. We are in the final stretch now. The year is 2013. The prison has become a world Nick understands perfectly. He knows the rhythm of the guards' boots. He knows the smell of the floor wax on Tuesdays. He knows the exact angle of the sun through the library window at 2 p.m. It is a small, ordered universe, and soon he will be ejected from it. In this chapter, we explore the fear of freedom. For an old man who has lived in the shadows of the mob and then the shadows of the Federal Witness Protection Program, the open light of the world is blinding. Nick sits in a small office with a case manager. The desk is cluttered with files. A computer monitor hums on the desk. "We need to discuss your release plan, Mr. Calabrese," the manager says. She is young, efficient, kind, but distant. She looks at him as a file number, a logistical problem to be solved. Nick nods. He doesn't speak. What is there to say? "Where will you go?" she asks. Nick looks at the map on the wall. It is a map of the United States. It looks vast and terrifying. He cannot go back to Chicago. The city is a minefield of memories. Every street corner holds a ghost. Every restaurant holds an echo of a conversation that ended in blood. "Somewhere quiet," he says. "Somewhere with no history." She types something into the computer. Click, clack, click. He watches her hands. He thinks about how the world has changed while he was inside. He sees it on the television. People walking down the street staring at small, glowing rectangles in their hands. Cars that drive themselves. A world of noise and speed. He feels like a relic. A piece of obsolete machinery dug up from the ruins of the 20th century. He is a rotary phone in a digital age. He's a fedora in a world of hoodies. He leaves the office. He walks out into the yard. It is autumn again. The air is crisp and smells of burning leaves from somewhere far beyond the fence. He sits on a bench. He watches a flock of geese flying south in a V formation. They are honking, calling to each other. They know where they're going. They have a destination encoded in their blood. Nick wonders if he has a destination. He thinks about his hands. They are spotted with age now. The skin is thin like parchment. These hands have held guns. They have held money. They have held the burning saint. Now, they just hold the railing of the bench. He wonders what he will do with the rest of his days. He will not work. He will not run. He will simply be. He imagines a small apartment, maybe in a town by the ocean, or perhaps in the desert, a place where the sun is hot and the shadows are short. He imagines walking into a grocery store, buying a loaf of bread, paying with coins, walking home, sitting in a chair. It sounds simple, but to Nick, it sounds like climbing Everest, to be normal, to be anonymous, to be just an old man feeding pigeons in the park. That night, he lies in his bunk. The prison is quiet. He looks at the ceiling one last time. He has memorized the cracks. He has named the stains. He realizes he will miss this. He will miss the safety of the cage. In here, no one can get to him. Out there, he is vulnerable. But he also feels a stirring in his chest, a faint, fluttering hope. He thinks about his grandchildren. He has never held them. He has never taken them for ice cream. He wonders if there is still time for that. Not to be the grandfather with the stories, but just to be a presence, a warm hand, a smile. He closes his eyes. He practices the feeling of walking out the gate. He visualizes the heavy steel door sliding open, clank hiss. He visualizes stepping over the threshold. He visualizes the air hitting his face, unfiltered air, free air. He breathes in deep. He fills his lungs with the imaginary air of freedom. It smells of rain and asphalt and possibilities. The fear begins to recede, replaced by a quiet resolve. He has survived the outfit. He has survived the brothers. He has survived the trial. He has survived the prison. He is a survivor. That is his profession now. He drifts into sleep. He dreams of a road, a long, straight highway stretching into the desert. There are no other cars, just him, driving a simple sedan, driving into the sunset. The sun is warm on his face. The radio is playing a song he doesn't know, but he likes the rhythm. He is driving away from the past. He is driving towards the silence. The walls of the prison seem to melt away in the dark. The bars turn to smoke. He's already gone. His body is on the bunk, but his spirit is already out there, on the road looking for a place to rest. Rest now. The journey is almost done. The destination is in sight. The heavy steel gate slides open with a mechanical hum that vibrates in the teeth. Shh. It is a sound of finality, but reversed. Instead of closing the world out, it is opening the world up. It is a Tuesday morning. The sky is a pale, washed-out blue, streaked with high, thin clouds that look like brushstrokes of white paint. The air outside the prison walls smells different. Inside, the air was recycled, smelling of floor wax and stale food. Outside, the air smells of ozone, diesel, and damp earth. It smells of vastness. Nick steps through the gate. He's wearing civilian clothes, a pair of tan slacks, a white button-down shirt, a gray windbreaker. They are clothes bought from a catalog, clothes that fit a little too loosely on his frame. He carries a small plastic bag with his personal effects. A watch, a pair of glasses, a few letters. The sum total of a life interrupted. A car is waiting for him. Not a Lincoln, not a Cadillac. Just a nondescript sedan, gray and dusty. A marshal stands by the door. He doesn't look like the agents of the past. He looks young, bored, checking his phone. "Mr. Calabrese?" he asks without looking up. "Yes," Nick says. His voice is rusty. He hasn't spoken much in the last few weeks. "Get in." Nick slides into the passenger seat. The seat is soft cloth. The car smells of air freshener, fake pine forest. It is an aggressive chemical smell, but to Nick, it is the perfume of liberty. The car pulls away. Nick doesn't look back at the prison. He knows what it looks like. He knows every brick. He looks forward. They drive onto the highway. The speed is disorienting. The cars blur past. Whoosh, whoosh. The world is moving so fast. When he went in, the world moved at a certain pace. Now, it seems to be sprinting. He watches the landscape roll by. Strip malls, gas stations, fast food signs. It is all familiar, yet alien. It is like watching a movie of America rather than being in it. He is being taken to a new life, a new name, a new history. Nicholas Calabrese, the hitman, the witness, the brother of the boss, is dying in this car. The man who will step out at the destination will be someone else, a retired mechanic, a widower, a nobody. They arrive at a small town. It doesn't matter where. It could be Arizona, Florida, or the Carolinas. It is a place of sun and anonymity. The streets are wide and quiet. The houses are small stucco boxes with gravel yards. The marshal drops him off at an apartment complex. It is clean, beige, and utterly silent. "Here are your keys," the marshal says. "Here is your paperwork. Good luck." "Thanks," Nick says. The car drives away. Nick stands on the sidewalk. He is alone, truly alone. There is no Frank to give orders, no FBI to ask questions, no guards to count him. He walks up the stairs to his apartment. He unlocks the door. Click, he steps inside. The apartment is furnished, A sofa, a TV, a table, a bed. It is generic. It looks like a hotel room. He puts his bag on the table. He sits down on the sofa. He listens. He expects to hear something. The sirens of Chicago, the screams of the past, the whispers of the cornfield. But there is nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator. Hum, hum. And the distant sound of a lawnmower down the street. He realizes that this is it. This is the rest of his life. The silence he has been chasing for 40 years has finally caught him. The routine of Shadow's days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Nick builds a routine. A man needs a routine to keep from dissolving. He wakes up at 6 a.m. Old habits die hard. He makes coffee. He stands by the window and watches the sun come up. It is a violent, beautiful orange sunrise, painting the sky in colors he never saw in the gray alleys of Chicago. He walks to the store. He pushes a cart. He buys apples, bread, milk. He stands in line. The cashier, a young girl with purple hair, smiles at him. "Have a nice day, sir," she says. She doesn't know. She sees a sweet old man. She doesn't see the blood on the Saint card. She doesn't see the shotgun in the snow. Nick smiles back. "You too," he says. It is the perfect disguise. Age is the ultimate camouflage. Who suspects the old man feeding birds in the park? Who suspects the grandfather reading a newspaper on the bench? He spends his afternoons at the library. He reads history. He reads about the Roman Empire, the rise and fall. He reads about the emperors who were assassinated by their guards. He reads about the generals who were exiled. He understands them. He feels a kinship across the centuries. He realizes that the Chicago outfit was just a small, dirty version of Rome. The same treachery, the same greed, the same inevitable collapse. He thinks about the legacy of the outfit, what is left of it. He looks at the news. The names have changed. The old social clubs are now coffee shops or condos. The Grand Avenue crew is a memory. The fear they inspired has evaporated. The empire he killed for, the empire he died for, the empire he betrayed. It was all made of sand, and the wind of time has blown it away. There is a strange comfort in that. If it meant nothing, then his sins are smaller. They are just specks of dust in a vast universe. The final drift. One evening, Nick sits on his small balcony. The desert air is cooling down. The sky is a deep velvety purple, scattered with the first stars. He has a glass of wine in his hand, red wine. He swirls it. He watches the legs of the wine drip down the glass. He thinks of Frank. For years, Frank was a demon in his mind, a source of terror. Then, he was an enemy to be defeated. Now, Frank is just a ghost, a sad, angry ghost who died alone in a prison hospital. Nick raises his glass to the empty chair opposite him. "To the end," he whispers. He drinks. The wine is warm and rich. He closes his eyes. He lets his mind drift back one last time, not to the bad moments, but to the spaces in between. He remembers the sound of the tires on the wet pavement of Lakeshore Drive. Hiss, hiss. He remembers the smell of the Italian beef sandwiches on Taylor Street. He remembers the feeling of the heavy wool coat in the winter. He remembers the silence of the car after a job was done. It is all a movie now, a film noir playing in the theater of his memory. The reel is running out. The screen is flickering. He feels a deep, heavy tiredness. Not the exhaustion of stress, but the natural fatigue of a long life nearing its conclusion. He puts the glass down. He leans his head back. The desert is silent. The crickets are singing. Chirp, 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 chirp. It is a hypnotic rhythm. Nick breathes in. The air is clean. He realizes that he has made it. He has reached the shore. The storm is over. The waves have settled. The boat is beached on the sand. He is the man who wasn't there. He is the man who vanished. He is the man who survived. He lets go of the name Nicholas Calabrese. He lets it float away into the night sky. Like a balloon released from a child's hand, it drifts up, higher and higher, until it disappears among the stars. He is just a man breathing in the dark. He is safe. The darkness wraps around him like a heavy, soft blanket. It is warm. It is protective. The past is a closed book. The cover is shut. The dust is settling on it. The future is just this moment, and the next, and the next. Quiet, still, peace. Drift now. Let the story fade. Let the words dissolve. There is only the night. There is only the silence. Good night, Nick. Good night, Chicago. Good night.